In a world where trust is the foundation of success, what happens when that trust is shattered? Sofia Vasquez spent years building her career, only to watch it crumble when her work was stolen and her reputation was dragged through the mud. But when the very person who betrayed her starts rewriting the story, Sofia must decide, will she let the lies define her, or will she fight back and reclaim what's rightfully hers? This isn't just about clearing her name. It's about taking control of her future and proving that even in the face of betrayal, the truth always finds a way to rise. I always believed I had earned my place in the architecture world not through luck, but through years of hard work. When Karen Mitchell was hired as the new creative director at Reynolds, I'd hoped for a collaboration, an opportunity to elevate the company and push its boundaries. What I didn't expect was for her to steal my work and sabotage my career. It started innocently enough. Karen and I had worked on several projects together, but the Portland waterfront project was different. I'd spent months crafting the designs, pouring my soul into them. The work had been groundbreaking: sustainable materials, innovative layouts, and an eco-friendly approach that was sure to gain attention. I thought I had finally found a design that would define my career. But when I came back from my vacation in Vancouver, I noticed something strange. The atmosphere at Reynolds had changed. People looked at me differently, and the office had become tense. At first, I brushed it off as the usual post-vacation disorientation, but then came the phone call from David. "Sofia, you need to hear this," he said. His voice was low, almost urgent. "Karen has been telling everyone that the Portland designs were all her work. She's making it sound like you barely contributed." I felt a knot form in my stomach. Karen was taking credit for my work? My mind raced as I tried to process the implications. David continued, "She's been showing your design files to the board, claiming them as her own. The worst part? She's accusing you of sending those files to outside firms for review." Heart sank. How could Karen, of all people, accuse me of something like that? She knew the boundaries, the ethical lines I would never cross. But in her eyes, I was an obstacle, one she needed to eliminate. "She implied you were sharing confidential work with competitors," David said, his words piercing through the fog of disbelief. I nearly dropped my glass when I heard, "She's accusing you of exactly what she did. She showed emails, Sofia, messages that looked like they came from your account, sending designs to outside firms." My pulse quickened. That was impossible. I hadn't sent any emails. But then a horrible thought began to form. "When did she say these emails were sent?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. David paused. "Last month, mostly. She had dates. When you were on vacation in Vancouver, she must have used your email account." The realization hit me like a slap to the face. Karen had used my absence to access my computer, forge emails and messages, and set me up for failure. She was systematically destroying my reputation. "This is bad, Sofia. Bad," David said, his voice strained. "Even people who like you are starting to doubt you." I felt sick. Karen hadn't just stolen my work and fired me. She was making sure I couldn't challenge her version of events. She was playing the long game, using her position and manipulation to undermine me. She wasn't just after my job, she was after my career. David hesitated before adding, "There's something else, a rumor that Archer and Hayes might hire you as a consultant after your non-compete period." I froze. Archer and Hayes? Why would they even consider me? Then it clicked. Karen had set the stage for exactly this. She was planting the seeds of doubt, ensuring that when I moved forward with any plans, she could claim that I had been conspiring with her competitors all along. The job offer from Archer and Hayes would solidify her narrative. "That's her insurance policy," I said, more to myself than to David. "She's making sure that when I try to fight back, it'll look like I've been in bed with them the whole time." David's voice was low but serious. "If you take any action against Reynolds, she'll use that narrative to discredit you. She's playing this game on multiple fronts and you're losing." I couldn't breathe. The walls were closing in. Karen had constructed the perfect trap, and I was the one walking straight into it. After David left, I sat in my office, stunned. My mind whirred, piecing together the elaborate trap Karen had set. It was clear now. She had anticipated every possible response I could make and had already laid the groundwork to neutralize me. It wasn't just about the Portland project anymore. It was about her ensuring that no one would believe me when I tried to fight back. I stared at my computer screen, the weight of it all pressing down on me. My fingers hovered over the keyboard as I considered my options. The situation was more complicated than I had initially realized. But I wasn't going to give up. Not without a fight. I needed evidence. Concrete, undeniable evidence that Karen had stolen my work. I spent the next few hours combing through my email archives, sifting through years of correspondence with Karen. Most of it was innocuous, discussions of deadlines, project updates, and brainstorming sessions. But then I stumbled upon something I hadn't expected. In a folder labeled Coastal Restoration Project, I found an email chain from 3 years ago. It was a conversation between Karen and me, where she had explicitly acknowledged my authorship of the design. She had written, "Need your magic touch on this one, the kind of innovative approach that made your coastal project such a success." I sat back, staring at the screen in disbelief. This was it. Proof that Karen had not only known I was the true creator of the design, but had also used my work as a springboard for her own career. This email was exactly what I needed. I immediately began building my case. I downloaded the original design files, pulling metadata and timestamps to prove that my concepts had been developed long before Karen's involvement. I compiled email chains that showed the evolution of ideas she later claimed as her own. Performance. Reviews contradicted her claims of my inadequacy, and testimonials from former clients attested to the fact that I had been the driving force behind the successful projects she now took credit for. By Sunday night, I had a dossier. A collection of irrefutable evidence that would expose Karen for what she truly was. I felt a surge of determination. I was done being a passive participant in this story. It was time to take action. The next morning, I sat at my desk, ready to submit a formal complaint to Reynolds' board of directors. The evidence was airtight, and I was confident that they would see through Karen's lies. But as I reviewed my documents one final time, a new email notification popped up. It was from Harold Reynolds. "Sophia, concerning developments have emerged regarding the Portland project. Need to speak with you immediately. Available to meet. This morning." For a moment, I thought I had misread it. Was Harold on my side? Had he finally seen through Karen's manipulation? A flicker of hope sparked within me. Maybe I wasn't as alone as I thought. I agreed to meet him at a coffee shop near the office at 10 a.m., my mind racing with possibilities. What if he had discovered the truth? What if he was ready to confront Karen? When Harold arrived, he didn't look like the confident, unshakable leader I was used to. He looked haggard, stressed, and on edge. He greeted me with a tight smile. "Thank you for meeting," he said. "I'll be direct. After our announcement, Portland officials requested additional background on the design concepts. They were impressed with the innovation and wanted to feature the designer's process in their public relations materials." I waited for the catch. There was always a catch with Harold. "Karen couldn't answer their technical questions," he continued. "When pressed, she became evasive. One official recognized elements similar to your work on the coastal restoration project and asked specifically about your involvement." I didn't need him to say any more. This was the break I'd been waiting for. "And what did Karen say?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Harold grimaced. "She claimed you had been her mentor, guiding her understanding of sustainable design principles." I couldn't help it. I laughed. "Her mentor? She's been taking credit for my work for years." "I'm beginning to see that," Harold admitted, his voice quieter now. "Portland has paused the project pending clarification of the design, authorship. Our partnership with Archer and Hayes is in jeopardy." I felt a rush of satisfaction. The tide was turning. "Why tell me this?" I asked. "I've been terminated, remember?" Harold looked uncomfortable. "Because Karen insists you have the original files that could resolve this issue. She's claiming you took them when you left." The audacity was staggering. Even now, Karen was manipulating the situation, trying to force me into handing over the very evidence that would expose her lies. "I have the original files," I said, my voice firm. "And I have proof that they're mine, not hers." Harold looked at me, his eyes searching. Sophia, the firm's reputation is at stake. We need to resolve this quickly and quietly. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Reinstate me, I said. Full position. Clear my record and remove Karen from any project involving my designs. That's not possible, Harold said quickly. Karen has already been announced as creative director. Then I'll take my evidence. To Portland officials directly, I said, and to the architectural press. Harold's face tightened. You'd damage the entire firm to get back at Karen? I'd ensure proper credit for my work, I corrected him. The damage to Reynolds would be collateral to Karen's actions, not mine. I stood up, my decision made. It was time for the truth to come out. Before Harold could respond, my phone buzzed with a news alert. Archer and Hayes announce withdrawal from Portland Waterfront Partnership. I showed Harold the headline. His face fell. It's already unraveling, I said softly. You have one chance to control the narrative before this becomes a public scandal. Harold stared at his coffee, clearly calculating options. The ball was in his court now. The next few days felt like a whirlwind. The fallout from the Portland Waterfront project was swift, and Karen's carefully constructed web of lies was beginning to unravel. Harold Reynolds had called an emergency meeting with the board, and I was asked to attend, though my mind was already made up. I was done with Reynolds, but this meeting was the final piece in what had become a long and personal battle. When I walked into the conference room, the tension was palpable. The board members sat at the long table, their faces serious, their eyes darting between each other as they murmured in low voices. Harold sat at the head of the table, his usual composure gone, replaced by an air of unease. Thank you for joining us, Sophia, Harold said as I took my seat. I know this situation is difficult, but we need to work together to resolve it. I nodded but said nothing, keeping my focus on the board. I wasn't here to fix this mess. I was here to ensure that my voice was heard. Let me give you the context, Harold continued. As you all know, the Portland Waterfront project has been delayed. Due to concerns over the authenticity of the design ownership, the partnership with Archer and Hayes has been suspended, and Portland officials are requesting clarity. The room shifted uncomfortably. People looked at each other, the weight of the situation settling in. Karen Mitchell has informed us that there is an issue with the design files, specifically regarding who created the original concepts. It appears that some of the work has been attributed to her, and claims have been made that Sophia provided her with those files after her termination. I could feel all eyes on me now. A silent judgment. But I was prepared. I wasn't here to play the victim. I was here to reclaim what was mine. I've reviewed all the documentation, I said, breaking my silence. The design work for the Portland project was mine, from start to finish. I have emails, metadata, and timestamps that show the progression of the project. I also have proof that Karen accessed my email account and sent designs to external firms under my name. A murmur rippled through the room. The board members exchanged glances, some shocked by the revelation. I pulled out a folder from my bag, slid it across the table, and laid it in front of Harold. Here's everything you need, I said. Proof that Karen has been claiming my work as her own, as well as the forged emails. Harold's eyes flickered down to the folder, then back to me. He looked like he was trying to digest everything, at once the reality of the situation finally hitting him. The others looked at him for direction, waiting for him to make a decision. It's worse than I thought, he muttered, his voice strained. Karen was convincing, and we've made several public statements about her role in this project. If this evidence is legitimate, we have a serious issue on our hands. I'm not interested in making this public, I said, my tone unwavering. I want what's rightfully mine, recognition for my work, an apology for the accusations, and for Karen to be removed from any involvement in this project, effective immediately. The room was silent as everyone absorbed my words. I could sense Harold's hesitation, but I wasn't going to back down. I had earned my place in this industry, and Karen's actions wouldn't define my career. Do you have any idea how much damage this will do? One of the board members asked, looking at me with concern. If we're forced to publicly admit that we mishandled this situation, it could destroy Reynolds' reputation. That's not my concern, I replied, my voice firm. My concern is that my work has been stolen, and I'm being blamed for something I didn't do. The damage is already done, but it doesn't have to be irreversible. You have a choice. Stand by the truth or allow Karen's lies to destroy the integrity of the firm. Harold nodded slowly, his eyes narrowing as he reviewed the evidence again. The room held its breath, waiting for his next words. "I'll make it right," he said finally, his voice resigned but resolute. "We'll retract our previous statements. We'll clear your name, Sophia. And Karen will be removed from her role immediately. She's already been informed that she's under investigation for misconduct." A wave of relief washed over me. It wasn't a perfect resolution, but it was. Enough. The truth had prevailed, and for the first time in months, I felt like I was finally gaining control of my life again. As the meeting concluded, I stood up, feeling the weight of the past few weeks lift off my shoulders. It wasn't just about getting my work back. It was about reclaiming my integrity and my future. I had been wronged, but I had fought back, and now I was stronger for it. But as I walked out of the conference room, something told me this wouldn't be the last time. I'd cross paths with Karen. She'd been dangerous once, but now that her true nature had been exposed, she'd be more dangerous than ever. The battle wasn't over, but I was ready for whatever came next. In the days that followed, the news spread quickly. Reynolds apologized publicly, acknowledging the mistake and praising my contributions to the Portland project. The board issued a statement confirming that I would be reinstated as a senior architect with a new role leading sustainable design initiatives. It was a victory, though bittersweet. Karen, on the other hand, was quietly removed from the firm. Her exit was unceremonious, and the whispers about her quickly faded into the background. I had won, but the cost was high. I wasn't sure what the future held, but I knew one thing. I would never let anyone define my worth again. I had taken the worst betrayal and turned it into the catalyst for my success. And from now on, I'd be in control of my destiny. As I walked out of the office for the last time, I felt the weight of my past lift away. The future was mine to create.